My parents backed my brother's massive $23,000 debt, attempted to get into my bank account, and labeled me selfish for refusing to help. This is how I stood my ground. I've been hanging around for a bit, but up until now, I never really felt the urge to post anything. I'm 5 feet 8 inches tall. I'm looking for some insight because my family has really tested my patience lately. It feels like no matter what choices I make, I end up being seen as the bad guy. Honestly, this ongoing family drama feels like it's dragging on forever, and it's really taking a toll on me, both mentally and emotionally. I've built my career from scratch and now work as a middle manager at a tech startup in Seattle. I've put in a ton of effort and sacrificed a lot of sleep to achieve everything I have, from my house to my car and my savings. You wouldn't believe the crazy family drama I had to deal with to get to where I am now. Let me share some context about our family's past. Ever since I hit 19, I've been completely on my own, and I truly mean it in every possible way, whether it's about money, feelings, or knowledge. Honestly, the way my parents brought up my brother and me was, to say the least, pretty rough, and they definitely weren't earning any awards for their parenting skills. Living in an urban apartment just outside Denver, we seemed like the quintessential American family. We were in a solid neighborhood with decent schools. My mom did some part-time teaching at the elementary level, while my dad was in the insurance game. Underneath that perfect facade, however, lay an unspoken guideline that shaped my whole childhood. I was meant to be the one who set the standard, the role model, the person who always had to show the way, while my younger brother Alex, 27 million, could do no wrong. Since I was a kid, the unfairness was glaringly obvious. There's this one memory that sticks out from when Jason was just 10 and I was 17. So my parents totally grounded me for a whole month just because I got a B+ on one chemistry test. They said I was wasting my potential or something. Can you believe that? So Alex got caught stealing our dad's wallet for the third Kevin that month, and all they could say was that he was just going through a phase. This was just one example of the persistent unfairness in how we were treated. This wasn't just a one Kevin thing. Whenever Alex messed up, and believe me, he had his fair share of blunders, it was just brushed aside. He'll figure it out eventually, my mom would say with that classic dismissive gesture, or he's just a bit sensitive, which really meant, let's just ignore this and hope he gets it on his own. It honestly felt like the world was crashing down around me with every little misstep. The pressure was unyielding and exhausting. Why aren't you putting in more effort? It's important to be a good role model for your brother. Are you not aware that he admires you? I juggled a part Kevin gig at a coffee shop, spent Kevin volunteering at the library, tackled all my AP classes in high school, and aimed for a perfect GPA since I knew universities really care about that stuff. Alex, in contrast, hardly ever showed up for class and preferred to hang out in the basement gaming instead. Still, I knew I had to put in more effort. It feels like no matter what I achieved, it was always falling short. People would wonder why I didn't get an A+ in calculus when I was pulling straight A's everywhere else. Instead of celebrating my achievement, my mom's immediate response when I was named valedictorian was, "I hope this doesn't upset your brother," regarding his grades. This situation persisted into adulthood, with Alex finding it tough to get through his classes while everyone chimed in with, "At least you're trying your hardest. Not everyone is meant for school." The higher the stakes, the more it spiraled out of control, if anything. Alex decided to leave local university after just 2 semesters since it was way too overwhelming for him. My parents covered his rent for what was supposed to be a gap year, but it turned into 3 years of him just figuring things out. I juggled 2 part Kevin gigs to cover my state college expenses, mornings at a coffee shop and evenings waiting tables. I can still remember that night when I left home at 19. I managed to snag a cozy little studio apartment with a roommate, all thanks to the cash I saved up from my part Kevin gig. So my dad was like, "If you're gonna stick around, you better start chipping in for rent." But it's funny because they never even asked Alex for a dime when he was still crashing at home at 23. Job hunting was such a struggle for him that they even decided to give him some financial support. They didn't even think about covering my living expenses or college tuition. Not that I was really counting on it. It really stung to watch them put in all that effort for Alex while I was left to fend for myself. I juggled multiple jobs, racked up student loans, and had my fair share of ramen noodle dinners that I'd rather forget. Alex, on the other hand, stuck around with them until he hit his mid-20s, bouncing from one dead-end job to the next, always ready with a story about how it was never really his fault. He would often claim that the manager was targeting him or that the company's toxic culture just didn't align with who he was. He consistently avoided taking responsibility, always shifting the blame to external factors. By sweeping his misdeeds under the rug and making excuses, our parents basically gave him a free pass to keep acting this way at every turn. I juggled 2 jobs while going to college, graduated with honors, and landed an entry-level position at a software company. I hustled my way up from that point, clocking in tons of overcaffeine and grabbing every opportunity to level up my education and certifications. My parents never stepped in to lend a hand, and I never reached out for it, to be honest. Yet, they had no hesitation in coming to me for financial support whenever Alex required a bit of help to regain his footing. So let's jump ahead to last week. It was pretty surprising that my mom actually called. You've got to understand that my mom isn't the type to call just to chat. It's like she never bothers to reach out, not even to say hi or see how I'm doing. She reaches out whenever she needs something. I'm talking about those calls that start with way too much friendly chatter, like they're trying to charm you before dropping the real reason for the call. That's exactly what happened last week. How's the job going? So, are you still working at that tech company? So how's your eating game lately? She asked in such an unusual way that I could tell something was off. My mom totally ignores my diet. The only thing she knows about my job is that I work with computers in some capacity. She didn't even remember the name of my company when we chatted last, which was during Thanksgiving 3 months ago, despite me working there for the last 5 years. It felt like she was putting in way too much effort to appear laid back, making the whole chat come off as really contrived. She asked about my boyfriend, but I've been single since my engagement ended last year, which Alex was a part of. And as for my living situation, I've owned a house for 2 years now. Even my cat, which I've never had the chance to give birth to because of an allergy. Each question was a reminder of her lack of understanding about my life, hitting me like a series of small, irritating paper cuts. Once again, Alex found himself in hot water after she hit me with it. I wasn't surprised. Alex always finds himself in some kind of trouble. Honestly, I didn't see this coming. He had apparently racked up $23,000 in debt, and this isn't the sort of debt that can be brushed off as youthful mistakes like credit card debt or student loans. No, he had taken loans from some really questionable lenders, and now they were seriously coming after him for their cash. My mom's voice cracked like she was about to cry, and I could tell she thought it would make me give in, just like it has before. She jumped right in, piling on the guilt without hesitation. You've really accomplished a lot. You've always been the resilient one. Alex is different from you. He could really use some assistance from you. He's really in touch with his feelings. It's like a whole different side of him comes out when the heat is on. While I was in my home office processing her words, I gazed out the window at the neighborhood I had put so much effort into affording. $23,000. Seriously, how can someone end up with that level of debt? My mom brushed it off as if it were just an annoying insect buzzing around when I inquired about how it all went down, almost depicting some ridiculous story about a failed venture or a con he had fallen victim to. She mentioned, "That's not the focus at the moment," with that same disdainful tone that always made me feel uneasy. At the end of the day, he's still your brother. Family supports family. We've always said that family is the top priority. For years, they've leaned on that saying, family helps family, as a convenient excuse. When they asked me to lend Alex money for his groundbreaking stock market venture, which he completely lost in just 1 month, that's what they said. So apparently, after his girlfriend kicked him out, he decided to swipe my credit card info, and they expect me to let him crash at my place. Whenever I was asked to step in for Alex, handle his issues, or tidy up after his blunders, that was always the response I got. Every single kavani, I pushed through my irritation and went along with what they said. I really didn't want to end up being the bad guy, because beneath it all, there was still that little girl yearning for her parents' validation, hoping that maybe this kavine they would see my efforts, my sacrifices, and my ongoing dedication to their cherished son. Seriously, $23,000? It wasn't just some casual favor or a simple loan. It was an initial investment for a house. That was a year of hard work. That was my backup plan, my rainy day fun, and my peace of mind for what lies ahead. This caving, I just couldn't pull it off. I finally said no to her for the very first caving, just like that. I said I was sorry, but honestly, there was nothing I could do to rescue Alex from the mess he created. The vibe of the discussion took a sharp turn. In just about 2 seconds, my mom went from looking sad to being totally furious. If it weren't for the sheer terror of it all, the transformation would have been quite impressive. The soft, anxious tone of the mother disappeared, giving way to a cold, cutting voice. She started to yell, "Are you really being selfish?" Her voice grew increasingly louder as she spoke. "Seriously? After all we've done for you, this is how you choose to respond? So you're just going to leave your family hanging when they really need you?" She even brought up the nuclear option. "Are you really willing to take that risk?" He took a loan from some questionable lenders. "What do you think would go down if he actually did that?" The manipulation was so blatant that it was almost laughable. Honestly, her trying to pin Alex's poor choices on me was just ridiculous. It's like his decisions, mistakes, and complete refusal to take responsibility are somehow on me. So I just hung up. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I felt this tightness in my chest, like there was a weight pressing down on me, and my hands were trembling so badly that I struggled to hit the end call button. Yet, beneath the well-known weight of family expectations, the embarrassment, and the anxiety, there lay a sense of solace. I felt a wave of relief wash over me for finally holding my ground. I've invested way too much caffeine and energy to let the bad choices of others drag me down. I've spent years building my career, gaining independence, and creating a life that isn't just about being Alex's backup. I just couldn't bring myself to throw any of it away, or possibly putting my own financial security at risk just to let his irresponsibility go on. But here's the thing about growing up in a chaotic environment. Guilt hits you right away, even when you're sure you're doing what's best for yourself and making the right choices. It's wild how my family can twist things around, making me question my own perspective and feel like I'm in the wrong, even when I know I'm not the bad guy. Once again, it played out just like before. I keep wrestling with the idea that maybe I messed up, even though I firmly said no and believed it was the right call. Right now, facing my family felt like the right move, but I'm starting to question if I've just made everything worse. But what if they actually have a point? Am I being a bit self-absorbed? What if Alex ends up facing consequences because I chose not to help? I get it on a rational level that I'm not accountable for the choices my brother makes or what comes from them. Yet there's still a part of me that feels like that young kid, constantly seeking validation from my parents. And I find myself asking those same questions. What if? Honestly, I'm totally in the dark about what's coming next. That call was just the start of something bigger. I was completely caught off guard by what happened next. I have a feeling this isn't over yet. Especially when it comes to Alex, my parents just can't seem to accept a no. I'm doing my best to stay strong, though. I'm reminding myself that I have the right to stand up for my future and for who I am. As this situation unfolds, I have a feeling I'll need some extra advice. Stay tuned for an update coming your way soon. Initial update. I just want to give a shout out to everyone who dropped some positive vibes on my last post. You all rock. Honestly, I was not expecting this kind of intense response. Last week brought a noticeable rise in tension, and it's definitely not for the better. Do you remember when I felt like this wasn't the conclusion? Absolutely, I was right. Right after I ended the call with my mom, the relentless barrage started. At first, it was nothing but a barrage of texts, classic guilt trip material. Then, however, things took a dark turn. Last Tuesday, my bank reached out to me about some unusual activity. It looks like someone attempted to access my account using what appeared to be stolen personal information. I got a call straight from the fraud department of my bank. They said that their security system detected a massive transfer attempt using my credentials because of a sketchy IP address. The fraud investigator informed me that the individual who tried to access my account had my mother's maiden name, my social security number, and even the name of my first pet. Typical security questions, right? Alex is the sole gatekeeper of all that info. After discovering that my own brother might try to take advantage of me, I quickly changed all my security questions and passwords. Super challenging. Cash wasn't the sole consideration anymore. This was an entirely different level of backstabbing. This is where things get even weirder, though. So my Aunt Julia, one of the few relatives I actually vibe with, hit me up yesterday. It looks like my parents have been telling a completely different story about what went down to the rest of the family. I've been painted as this heartless villain, living it up in luxury while my brother struggles, and they say I'm just sitting on my wealth while poor Alex battles for his life. My aunt reached out to get my perspective on the story, and thankfully, she didn't buy into it. Gotta love having a rational family. She was totally taken aback when I mentioned the attempted identity theft. She dropped some info that I had no clue about. Looks like Alex has been trying to hit up various family members for cash lately, each caving with a different story about why he needs it. He shared a diverse array of tales. He informed our elderly grandmother that he required funds to cover his medical expenses. Our cousin Daniel said it was a guaranteed investment opportunity. Our Uncle Edward said it was all about starting a small business. He told our parents he was in debt to some sketchy individuals, but none of those claims hold any water. But this morning was the Kevinate twist. So my dad finally shot me an email, Danieling the first Kevining. He's actually reached out to me directly since everything went down. It had that cold, sly vibe, and honestly, it felt a bit threatening. This is a snippet of his writing. Your behavior is making us rethink your role in this family. Your parents have consistently been there for you, ensuring you have what you need, backing your education, and offering every chance for you to thrive. Your present achievements stem directly from the sacrifices we've made. If you keep leaving your brother hanging when he really needs you, don't be surprised if things get messy. Consider your next step wisely. The bit about them covering my education had me cracking up. I'm still dealing with my college debts, but the message was crystal clear. Help Alex or face the consequences of being excluded from the family. They think they can manipulate me by threatening to cut me off, using family connections as a way to gain the upper hand. It's like they have no clue that I've been pretty much disconnected from them for years. Our relationship has always been based on conditions. I'm stuck looking after Alex, playing the role they assigned me, and just going along with their twisted idea of what family loyalty means. I talked to the IT security team at my company about the attempted account hack. They're helping me secure all my devices and accounts related to my work. I've also started keeping a record of every text, email, and voicemail I receive. As unbelievable as it seems, I have to collect evidence against my own family. What's the weirdest part of it all? So Alex's girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend, I guess, depending on how things are going right now, texted me. She mentioned that Alex has been acting really weird lately. We haven't had much of a relationship, but she reached out to me after picking up on his vague comments about claiming what's his and giving people a taste of their own medicine. This weekend, I'm planning to set up some alarm systems around my place. I might be a bit overly careful, but after that bank account mess, I'm not risking anything. It's wild to think that I'd find myself in a position where I have to stand up for myself against my own family, but here we are. $23,000 is just the tip of the iceberg for anyone curious about why I don't simply throw money at this to make it disappear, even if I had the desire to do so. Which I absolutely do not. Based on what my aunt has shared about Alex's past borrowing efforts, it seems his total debt is probably much higher. Assisting my brother isn't the focus anymore. It's all about backing a harmful behavior that really needs to stop. Next week, I'm meeting with a financial advisor to review my accounts and set up some extra security measures. I'm considering reaching out to a lawyer to explore my options regarding the attempted fraud, just in case things take a turn for the worse, but I'm not looking to file charges at this point. If anything significant goes down, which seems pretty likely soon considering how things are right now, I'll drop another update. Thanks for giving me a space to vent. I really appreciate all the comments on my last post and hearing about everyone's similar experiences. It's really reassuring to realize I'm not alone in dealing with this kind of family dysfunction. So here's the second update. I decided to confront Alex in person after the whole attempted identity theft situation I mentioned earlier. The aftermath was both shocking and totally predictable. I headed over to Alex's place yesterday evening. It's a rundown place in a sketchy part of town. He looked rough around the edges, unshaven with dark circles under his eyes, and was sporting a worn-out t-shirt when he finally answered the door. What did he say at first? Your patience in arriving is appreciated. I'm not here to apologize for my attempt to hack my bank account. There's absolutely no reason to justify that $23,000 debt. Typical behavior, just a sense of entitlement. His reply was pretty unsettling when I asked him about the identity theft. My parents mentioned that if the situation got bad enough, you'd eventually relent. I was just speeding things up, that's all. He dropped it so casually, like he was just chatting about the forecast instead of admitting to a murder. That's when I started to notice something off about his place. On his coffee table, there were a bunch of phones and what looked like credit card statements featuring multiple names. He quickly shoved them into a drawer before I had a chance to see them properly. When I realized this could be about more than just my bank account, I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. My parents showed up right when I was about to head out. When I arrived, it seemed like Alex had already sent them a message. They barged into his place like they owned the joint. Of course, Mom was in tears, while Dad was absolutely furious. This sparked the most intense family debate we've ever had. My dad started off by sharing how let down he felt about my selfish behavior. My mom told me they messed up as parents since I came off as so cold-hearted. It's unbelievable that they actually stood up for the identity theft attempt when I mentioned it. My mom mentioned that he was really desperate. When you chose not to help, what choice was left for him? Some Kevines, when people feel trapped, they end up making choices they wouldn't normally make, Dad added. What I was hearing was absolutely wild. I asked, is it ever okay to commit identity theft if it's about family? What was their response? At the end of the day, family always has each other's backs. I totally lost my cool at that moment. After years of holding it in, all that pent-up frustration finally came pouring out. I laid it all out for them, detailing how their favoritism affected me and how Alex turned into the person he is now because of their enabling behavior. I provided specific instances, like their unwillingness to help with my college tuition while funding Alex's failed efforts, their ongoing pressure for me to give Hyanin money, and their constant emotional manipulation. What did Alex say, though? At least I'm not some pretentious Bonites who thinks she's above everyone else, he grinned. Honestly, Mom totally gave a thumbs up. I finally understood that they weren't going to change at that moment. Absolutely not. Cash wasn't the sole consideration anymore. This was about a family dynamic that was fundamentally toxic and would never improve. I took out my phone and played back the entire recording of our conversation. What was their reaction when they realized I had evidence of their involvement in identity theft? Absolutely invaluable. If anything happens to my accounts again, I'm sending this recording straight to the police, I declared. I'm definitely going to file charges this Kevin, Alex. My mom started to express her concerns that I was putting them at risk. My dad called me manipulative. For the first Kevin, Alex looked genuinely worried as he stood there. My dad grabbed my arm just before I was about to leave and said something that stuck with me forever. If you choose to leave that door, don't expect to be welcomed back into this family again. I shot him a direct look and said, that sounds more like a promise than a threat, before walking away. When I got back home, my phone was blowing up with missed calls and messages. I went ahead and blocked their numbers. I fired up my laptop and started drafting an email to my whole extended family. I included screenshots of the threatening messages, a transcript of the recorded conversation, and all the paperwork related to the identity theft attempt. I'm done being the family's punching bag. I'm fed up with being manipulated. I'm done being Alex's cash machine. Kevinately, I've wrapped up keeping their secrets under wraps. This might be my last update. I have a feeling that things are about to shift for everyone in a big way. Right now, I'm focused on protecting myself. This means I'm looking into security systems and consulting with a lawyer about getting legal protections. Big shout out to all who have been watching this unfold and offering their support. Your comments really inspired me to stand up for myself today. Here's the third update. A lot has shifted since my last update, which was about a month back. After the incident at Alex's place, I decided it was Kevin to stop keeping the family's secrets. So when I finally spilled the beans, here's what went down. Hey, remember that email I mentioned I was sending out to the extended family? So I decided to level up my game. I put together a detailed post with screenshots showing the attempted identity theft, Alex's own confessions, and a recording of my parents defending his actions as evidence. I just wanted everyone to know the real story. I had no intention of seeking revenge. The response was absolutely overwhelming. Within just a few hours, more Vic Kevins of Alex's schemes started to step up and share their stories. So, my cousin Kevin mentioned that Alex borrowed $500 for a business idea that never really went anywhere. Aunt Rachel mentioned that he managed to convince her to co-sign a loan, and now she's the one paying it back. Out of nowhere, the whole mystery about my grandmother's missing jewels from last Christmas suddenly had a prime suspect. But seriously, the biggest bombshell came from Alex's ex-roommate, who dropped the news that Alex had been using his identity to rack up a bunch of credit cards. Feeling overwhelmed with shame, he thought that nobody would believe him due to the image of my parents' flawless son. A person from HR at the company where Alex recently interviewed came across the social media post. His previous engagement in financial fraud definitely caught their attention. It's pretty clear that he didn't get the job. My parents really struggled within their social circle. They had been there for their struggling son for years, all while putting on a facade of being the perfect parents, dealing with one ungrateful daughter. It seems like everyone has finally caught on to what's really going on. So I vented to my church friends about how selfish I can be, and now it feels like they've started to pull away from me. Out of nowhere, Dad's golf buddies suddenly had too much going on to hit the links every week. My mom tried to twist things around by saying I was lying, but the truth was obvious. They couldn't back up their own recorded comments, the text messages, or the bank records. Their meticulously crafted facade crumbled. When Alex's current roommate saw the post, it totally flipped the script. He had no idea what he was getting into when he agreed to let Alex crash at his place. Alex got hit with an eviction notice in just a week. It seems that living with someone who attempts identity theft isn't exactly a popular choice. I've heard that Alex is juggling 2 jobs just to tackle his debt. Finally, he's facing the consequences for his actions, and his reputation has taken a hit. Out of nowhere, my parents have ditched social media. Enough with the endless quotes about ungrateful kids and those passive-aggressive family value posts every single day. Things are going great for me right now. I get it about that job promotion I applied for. I've finally managed to focus on my growth, both professionally and personally, without the constant stress of family drama and financial exploitation weighing me down. What an idea! I'm finally connecting with someone who gets it when it comes to boundaries. It seems like Mom and Dad have completely stopped talking about me based on what I've heard from the few family members I still keep in touch with. Stop the guilt trips already. Enough with the games. Finally, it seems they've come to understand that public awareness can stem from actions having consequences. For those grappling with toxic family dynamics, some Kevins allowing the truth to shine through is a more powerful approach than pursuing legal action. The folks you don't want will show up, while the ones who matter will actually pay attention. My family's greatest concern wasn't the legal consequences, it was the fear of the public uncovering their true selves. By voicing my thoughts instead of staying silent, I not only liberated myself from their grip, but also empowered others to stand up for themselves. Thanks to all who have joined us on this journey and shown their support. For the first Kevin ever, I genuinely feel a sense of freedom. It's totally fine when the family you were born into doesn't quite fit what you really need. I'm putting together a group of individuals who value integrity, accountability, and genuine care for one another. This will be my final update. With the story wrapped up, I'm ready to start fresh, leaving behind the guilt, the ways, and the constant burden of taking care of everyone else. So what do you think you know? No legal action could ever bring that sense of relief. Appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, go ahead and do it. And don't forget to ring the notification bell to keep up with more unbelievable real-life stories unfolding around you.